Hey everyone, it's Mary, and thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Debt Proof Living. Today we're going to talk about vinegar and baking soda. Do the two make the best, awesome, ultimate, epic household cleaner? A lot of people think so. But here's the deal. Every time I write about it in some way, and it has to do with house cleaning and keeping things running well in a house, I get the most unusual messages. Not a whole lot, but some tell me, don't you know what you're talking about? Vinegar and baking soda cancel each other out. The result is water. What? I read those things over and over again because on the one hand, I respect their ability to understand and know about chemistry and science and so forth. But on the other hand, I've seen it work amazingly. Want to know how I know? Boy, do I have a story for you. In the almost 3 decades, wow, I can't believe it's been that long. Yep, almost 30 years since founding Debt Proof Living, which some of you know started out as Cheapskate Monthly, I've logged more than 1.5 million air miles for book tours, speaking events, and television and radio shows. It's been and continues to be great fun, and I have mostly loved every minute. But as you can imagine, many things have happened to me on my travels, some of them quite funny. But none can top what happened to me in San Francisco. The year was 1998. I was in San Francisco to appear on a local television show. The producers had asked me to bring props that would create some visual interest, as I would be demonstrating some of the great tips I'd been publishing in my newsletter. I arrived the evening before and checked into one of San Francisco's finest historic downtown hotels before taking a cab to a local grocery store to pick up the props I would need for the show. I wanted the biggest sizes I could find, like baking soda and vinegar. I figured that it would be easier than trying to carry all of that on the plane. Now, the producers had told me that they would have these things already set up and ready on the show, but they wanted me to bring these large props that we could kind of put in the background. So I decided that rather than carrying them all so heavy, in another cab the next morning to the studio, that if I emptied them out, it would make my trip a lot easier. After all, as I said, I was only going to need the containers, not the contents, despite the fact that I would be wasting an awful lot of perfectly good stuff. In the interest of convenience and ease, I dumped that large box of baking soda into the toilet and flushed. And a few minutes later, I poured a gallon of white vinegar down the toilet and flushed again. I emptied the salt into a plastic bag. I thought that might plug up something, 10 pounds of salt. And I tied it up and placed it into the wastebasket. I poured the quart of rubbing alcohol down the sink. Done. Simple, easy, and quite smart, I told myself. I commenced to pack up the props for the next day and left the room to get some dinner. Several hours later, as I was mostly watching TV, the most unusual thing happened. It was like Yellowstone's Old Faithful visited my room. I heard this terrifying, loud sound of rushing water and ran to the bathroom just in time to see an eruption of water shoot straight out of the commode into the air, almost hitting the ceiling. I got to tell you, it scared me half to death. All I could do was stand there and stare. Once it calmed down and gurgled to a stop, this most horrible odor began to fill the room. All of the sewer gases from under the city of San Francisco seemed to be pouring into my room. I ran out into the hallway only to be greeted by all of the other hotel guests on that floor. Apparently, that odor was filling their rooms as well. By now, it was getting late. What a sight to see. Dozens of people in the hall in every kind of robe and nightwear imaginable. All of us gasping for air while covering our faces with anything available. The hotel engineer was summoned to assess the problem. He did a little poking around, kind of talked with each of us, and all he could do was laugh. He stood there and concluded that finally, whatever it was that had been clogging the hotel drains let loose. Oh my. Thankfully, there was no lingering damage. In fact, I like to think I did them a huge favor. You have no idea how huge. What I learned that night, when I single-handedly did what so many professionals before me had not been able to accomplish, all with just baking soda and white vinegar, oh my, I'll never forget it. And what I want you to know, never underestimate the power of a really great household tip. But let's be really clear, you've got to do this properly. So this is the way to use this tip of using vinegar and baking soda. Use it only to clear drains. Any other use is probably not going to do much good at all. You might as well just use water. But here's how you're going to do it. To clear a sluggish drain and keep it running well, pour 1 cup of baking soda into the drain. Now you've got to make sure it goes down. If there's a plunger or a pop-up in your drain, press it down, push it down. Get the end of a spoon or something to get all of that baking soda down inside the drain. You don't want it sitting in a mound on top of the drain. Follow with 1 cup of white vinegar. I know what you're thinking. If it's really plugged, I'll go ahead and use 2 cups of each. No, please don't do that. I've been there. You don't want to do that. Now here's what's going to happen. It will bubble, it'll fizz, and it'll gurgle. But it's not harmful. I want you to let it sit for a couple of hours, and overnight would be even better. In the morning, I want you to flush it with a kettle or a pot of boiling water. Right, boiling water, which you're going to pour directly into the drain. Now here's a caution. If you have a porcelain sink, especially if it's old, like a vintage porcelain sink, you want to be careful not to hit it with boiling water. So 2 options. If you can carefully keep that water right into the drain, you'll be absolutely fine. If you're worried about hitting the porcelain as you're doing that, don't make it boiling, but just the hottest tap water you can come up with. Okay? The best idea is to be careful to pour that water right into the drain. I'm telling you what's going to happen. You're going to love it. It's going to dislodge whatever has been clogging it up. And if it doesn't, you're going to repeat after you have flushed that drain well with a lot of water. 1 cup of baking soda, followed by 1 cup of white vinegar, followed by several hours, if not overnight. Now, if you are dealing with really old pipes and plumbing, like say you own the historic San Francisco Hotel, you might want to cut the quantities down even further and just do this gradually to be on the safe side. But I can tell you in almost every situation, this is going to be fantastic. It's not a myth, it's a miracle. And you should do this at least once a month to keep all of your drains running clear. You'll keep the plumber away, you'll save a lot of time and money too. Thanks for joining me today. It's been great. I'll see you later. And Merry Christmas!
Thank you. You've been listening to Debt Proof Living with Mary Hunt. Debt Proof Living with Mary Hunt was created and hosted by Mary Hunt, produced by Julie Emerson, with Harold Hunt, executive producer. Save time and save money every day. Make it easy on yourself. Just subscribe at everydaycheapskate.com. That's where you'll find all the ways you can follow Mary, follow Everyday Cheapskate, and Debt Proof Living. Thanks for listening.